there you are. Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to Chat and Craft with Rissa. I'm your host, Rissa, and with me today, I have Dr. Rey-Rey, aka ARomanticAce,
Hello.
in
We
a
are
little embroidery hoop.
we are professional streamer people who definitely have not been fighting technology most of the afternoon and evening.
No, definitely not. Absolutely not. I know I haven't been. Ever.
This view you have of my embroidery hoop definitely is not flipped upside down and reversed because I just have my second camera hanging off the front of my monitor.
Literally? I have done the exact same thing, Nancy. Whatever. I don't think that what I'm doing is interesting enough for everyone to just be looking at, but tell me, what are you doing right now? What is your craft of the night?
Well, my craft of the night is a counted cross stitch. So I've done this before many, many years ago, and my mom used to do a lot of counted cross stitch, which is how I now have gotten sent home from Thanksgiving dinner with a gigantic set of 2 tackle boxes full of floss.
Of course.
Because this is a 55 color pattern, and I still did not have all 55 colors. And she was like, "Here, take my stuff," and I was like, "Okay." And it is ultimately a design that depicts the what I call the grave tree. So my family's property. We've been on this property since 1860s, and you know, definitely was not any Homestead Act bullshittery going on there. But at the top of one of the hills, there's a tree all by itself, a kind of scrappy little pine tree all by itself. And since my grandfather died in '98, that is where we have scattered or interred the family's cremains. My grandmother was the most recent. She decided she didn't want to be scattered. She wanted to be buried as ashes. And we were like, okay, the Catholicism jumped out very suddenly in the last 8 months of her life. She'd been Catholic all her life, and then all of a sudden got really Catholic when it was actually time to start, I might actually die soon.
And gotta get all the Hail Marys in at the end.
Yeah. She had a very precious rosary that she had, willed to some other relative that I think I met for the first time at the funeral, and I was like, I spent a total of 4 to 6 weeks in this woman's home, straight when I was a kid, because she and my grandfather used to be the property caretakers for a YMCA day camp in Wyoming. And so a couple times I went to go to the day camp, which meant I lived with my grandmother for those 2-ish weeks or so. Never once, not a single time, did I see a single Catholic anything. I found out this woman was Catholic basically when she died.
Yeah.
And then I'm hearing my family telling stories about oh yeah, we'd have talks about Christianity and shit, and I'm like, bitch, I went to a fundamentalist Christian school. What the fuck? She never said a word to me. So I don't know when she got Catholic again, but she definitely got Catholic again. And multiple times thought that somebody, at the nursing home or something had stolen her rosary, and it was just she dropped it behind the chair or whatever. It's like, good job, Grandma. You're doing great. I mean, she was 91 when she died. I'm pretty sure her goal was to outlive Queen Elizabeth.
Well,
which she did. Not by a whole hell of a lot, but she did it. So,
whatever works. Hi, Nancy.
The grave tree where pretty much everybody is like, yeah, that's where we're gonna go when we die. And so that was property still owned by my grandmother technically, and is now that she has died, owned by me. So I am basically a Skyrim NPC, I think. I am an old hermit who lives in the hills and is custodian of, a cemetery.
The honestly dream. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about cemeteries. but ever since I was a child, obsessed.
I mean, they're quiet, for one thing. You know, the joke was when I was house shopping in 2014 before grad school, we considered a couple places that were like nearby cemeteries and shit, and my realtor was like, here's the thing, they're really quiet neighbors, and it's also probably not going to get built on, and like your view change and stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, do you know about Cheeseman Park and how
Do
many
you know
bodies?
about Old Town San Diego?
Do you know about how many bodies are just still under Cheeseman Park because the guy was paid by the casket and not by the headstone?
Okay.
Great.
Old Town San Diego, literally, the cemetery, got paved over part of it. And so the street and the sidewalk have little grave markers on them.
Oh my god.
Where people's graves are. So there are still remains down there.
No.
Yes.
At least, like, I mean, like, at least they're, I'm gonna go like, well, at least they're marked.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess. That's honestly more than Cheeseman Park can say, because by the time they figured out this guy was only putting like one bone in each casket, it was way too late to figure out where he had started doing that, and so they just had to be like, well, we're out of money to move the corpses, so the rest of them just get... sorry, everybody.
Sorry.
Anyway. Yeah, no, Denver's not haunted.
Absolutely not. Definitely not haunted. Oh gosh. And that's nothing to say then even of like just... Oh, I'm not gonna go there. Just... We're not even gonna talk about Wall Street. We're just
paving over like old cemeteries and shit is not as uncommon as people think it is.
No.
Honestly.
No.
Like,
it's really
usually you hear some about that and it's like, oh my god, like that's so unusual. It's like, it's really not. There's a reason that the movie Poltergeist used the trope it did.
Yeah. It is
one of the reasons is racism, but the other reason is that that's actually kind of common-ish.
Oh, so
especially if like there were no markers to begin with, or the markers had weathered away. Like, how would you know? Are you just gonna routinely go digging for bodies wherever you plan on building?
And that's why there are a lot of, like, if you watch an episode of Time Team, they almost always, in the middle of the field, be like, oh, and then we found some human remains.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have to stop the entire... If they're in Scotland, they had to stop the entire dig. Was it Scotland specifically, or if it was one specific site? I can't remember. They had to stop because anytime that you find human remains in that area, you have to call the police, even if they're ancient. So there's an entire episode of Time Team. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even though it's like, this is obviously a Bronze Age burial. But yeah,
just in case this might be a new body in here.
Yeah,
because I mean, think about it. If you were trying to hide your murder, trying to disguise it as like an ancient burial would not necessarily be the dumbest way, I guess.
I mean, it's a little difficult to try and because like in a lot
like to the
of
point
places
where it would fool people, probably not, but
yeah, in a lot of places in the UK, the soil is highly acidic, and can eat through stuff, you know, just a little bit. So you're left with just like little tiny bits of human. So it's not going to be very easy to make that happen. But that's why it's interesting, the difference between bogs, swamps, and fens.
Yeah.
And marshes. All of them are different based on like their pH and like if they're salt water or not. It's fascinating. Don't get me started.
The peat bogs where they've found people a couple times before they were able to solidly attribute that, no, this is very clearly somebody from a couple thousand years ago.
Yeah, bog bodies?
I remember a couple of them scared investigators enough to be like, we're want to call the cops just in case.
Yeah.
And I think at least as of like 2010 in Israel, that was also the rule. If you found human remains on a dig, you were to stop everything. And now Israel is creating its own, massive caches of human remains. Good job, everybody.
Yeah, we're doing great. Doing great in the world now.
That at least used to be the rule.
Used to be.
And yeah. I mean, like, I don't know how, even without all that, I don't know how heavily they would still be concerned about that. But, like, that and the thing of they always claim that archaeologists lick rocks to see if they're bone. And I really don't think they're licking as many rocks as people think they are.
Yeah, they're pretty good at seeing what is a bone and what isn't a bone.
Yeah, for the most part, if you're questioning if it's a bone, it probably is a bone. And second of all, you don't, like, they're over here wearing gloves and shit to make sure they don't contaminate or create additional degradation of the sample, and you think they're just gonna lick a random thing to see if it's a rock?
Yeah.
That's how you think they're gonna handle that situation? No. And that's when I usually come back with, but in physics, first of all, never lick anything. But second of all, y'all know you can hold weapons-grade plutonium in your hands, right? And it won't kill you because of the type of radiation. And that's how they caught North Korea making weapons-grade plutonium when they weren't supposed to at one point. Because they brought the UN inspector in to be like, oh no, see, all we have is reactor-grade plutonium. And he was like, okay, let me hold that. That's your reactor-grade plutonium? Let me hold that. And they were like, what? And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna touch it. So they put it in his hand and it was warm, and he goes back and he's like, yeah, that's weapons-grade plutonium.
Beautiful.
Reactor-grade wouldn't be warm to the touch.
There's
like, it's like the silliest way to figure it out, but also just like, know thy radiation sources, I guess.
It's more about dose. The dose makes the poison, that's the saying.
Yep. It's how much of it can actually get to you.
Exactly.
Which the type of, if you're unfamiliar, which I don't expect a whole lot of people are necessarily familiar with why you would be able to do that, the type of radiation put off by reactor-grade plutonium is alpha particles, which those are the ones that get stopped by just the layers of dead skin on your hand. The other problem is, if they do get past that, they're very massive particles, so they can do a lot of damage, but they don't have a lot of energy with which to do it. So don't lick it, don't swallow it, that will be very bad for you, but it won't get past layers of dead skin on your hands. And so you'll be pretty fine to handle it normally. Whereas if you did that with weapons-grade uranium, you would be in some trouble.
Probably. See, and my thing, don't lick the science, is just so you don't get, whatever sickness a baby has.
Yeah, there's also that. Little disease vectors.
They sure are. I am so lucky that I did not catch whatever the babies had before I went to break, because that would have made this weekend so miserable. They all sounded miserable, and I was like, do not give it to me.
Don't you dare. I know you're thinking about it.
And if people are wondering what the fuck I'm doing, okay, so I'm making a little wreath. I first started with my little pine needles, like the little, not really pine needles, but they're more like little clumps. And now what I'm doing, and now what I'm doing is the needles. So I chained a row of crochet, and now what I'm doing now is I'm going around the ruler and then doing a slip stitch into the chain, and then when it's done I take it off the ruler and then I cut it, and it's basically a pom-pom effect, and then that'll be my, like, bulking it out give it some volume, some voom. I might not even cut it down the middle. I'm gonna maybe consider, we'll see if I want to just like fold it in half and have it out, but then it won't give as much splay, so I don't know. I'll see how I feel. The first time I did this, I made the mistake of not doing the chain first. So I got all the way done, and I was like, awesome, and I pulled it off, and it looked great. But then you pull, and then it all just lengthens to be one really long chain.
Oh,
and I went, oh, I forgot a step. And that's how you know I haven't done this kind of thing in decades, I want to say. But that's how that is. So that's what I'm doing right now. It's because we decided to put up Christmas decorations today because it's been a shitty time in the world. So I've just been trying to do homework, but my poor body is very mad about the fact that it's snowing out. It's lovely. It's beautiful out right now. But it's also 25 degrees. And my bones are not happy. So I've just been in severe pain all day. So I have been going strong with my CBD tincture, which makes it something where I cannot really pay attention to doing any of my homework. Especially not actually writing my paper. Now, am I doing the paper but stupid file? Yes. Which is, again, my biggest recommendation for anyone who's like, I can't write this paper. I don't know where to start. The place to start is putting in all of your headings and then filling them out, being like, dude, this was weird. And then just go from there. And then you can go back through later and be like, hey, now I can really flesh these thoughts out. Instead of you sitting at a blank document and going, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Instead, you get to go, dude, this was fucked up. I didn't expect that to happen. Or, dude, this was legit. Or it worked, maybe.
Or here's this cool plot I made. Don't know what it means yet.
It's just like, I just at this moment I'm trying to figure out how much is too much to include. So I'm just like throwing everything into it right now. I think one of the most interesting parts of it I'd like to include would be some of the qualitative stuff, but like, trying to figure out how to do that would be... I have some papers I can, like, re-look at again that I know did similar stuff. There's a specific paper I'm thinking of that I read in the spring about, acculturation, in, Caribbean Americans. Well, not Caribbean Americans, but, like, I think it was specifically remote acculturation in Jamaica. That's what it was. And it had a lot of really good qualitative sections to it where they just put out, like, what it was and the, like, responses and stuff they got. So I'm going to relook at that and see how they do it because, you know, there's nothing I like more than a script.
References.
I'm really bad at doing things if I don't know what it should be. So instead, if I find an example of something, then I'm golden. It's like, Rissa, are you just No, I'm not copying these things. It just makes it easier for me to literally, like, figure out how they did it, and it helps me figure out how I'm supposed to do it.
Yep.
Why I always hate it when you're in an online class and it's a discussion-based thing and you're supposed to do your online discussion posts, but it doesn't let you see anyone else's until you write your own. And I'm like, I hate this. I want to know what other people are doing so I know how much to include, what not to include. Like, I just want to know, okay?
Yeah,
I just
I did not enjoy my handful of like online classes that I had to do with, because like I had a online biology course where you had to do like discussion board posts, and
yeah.
that was fucking weird. It was you could see everybody else's first back then at least, but
Yeah.
it's like, oh god, if I had to go do that again nowadays, I would just not do the class.
Literally though, like it's just required for what I'm doing. Not that yeah, existential dread. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I got to have that over Thanksgiving dinner as, the family friend that has, known me since I was born, but
Mm-hmm.
who also likes to use slurs when he's talking about people I know, and then I yell at him and then I get in trouble because I'm,
Being a
a
problem.
goddamned adult. um, he's like, "Oh, are you still working for NASA?" And I'm like, "Nope." And I actually just lost out on getting back in doing almost the exact same job just for a different team because they already had people in the interview stage when it was me and the other guy that got laid off with me. We got our applications in, and they already had people in the interview stage. They
That's
hired them.
so
And it's like,
frustrating.
oh, so close. So close. Because both of us, at this point, I think I've been offered the same Boeing job in Colorado Springs like 3 or 4 times by different recruiters. And it's very funny to every time be like, no. Because A, I'm not driving to Colorado Springs every day. That's a 3-hour commute. No, thank you. B, it's Boeing. I would like to survive my employment, if at all possible. And C, it's DoD money.
Yeah.
And I'm not taking money from the Department of Defense anymore. So that sucks because that's where all the money is in the United States.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm currently doing a policy, early childhood and family policy certificate on top of my master's, and it doesn't feel good knowing that they're trying to literally get rid of the Department of Education.
Yeah, for some fucking reason.
This is like when I was in undergrad. We were both of the same like time of going to undergrad and getting like a year or two in, and then the recession hit, right? And then having to rethink my entire situation. And so then this really weird thing happened this month. I don't know if you've heard of it, but there was this election. And
oh, was there really? Is that what was going on?
Yeah, it was really weird. And now, much like my dreams of being a Spanish teacher in 2009, my ideas of what I was going to do after I graduate have gotten a little sad. So
yeah.
So yeah.
No, I frequently remind my mother that the 2016 election destroyed my career in renewable energy research. Just flat out. That it literally just killed it.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, and who did you vote for in that election, Mother? If I recall. Yeah, maybe don't do that again. So I don't think she did it again, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think she figured it out, but
yeah. Mama Krolmeister voted for Trump in 2020, not 2016. In 2020, she did though. And Ariana says that she doesn't think she did this time, which big if true.
Boy, I guess that's what it takes, huh?
It literally, I think is thankfully, after she voted in 2020, and then, January 6th happened, and she was like, I don't agree with that. So I'm
Oh, good. We
hoping.
finally found the breaking point.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
literal treason.
literal, it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, yeah. The legal system will take care of it. Oh fuck, we have Justice Alito in there still. What the fuck?
Yeah. Ooh, we have gotten very bitter very quickly. Honestly, I'm really impressed at us. 30 minutes in and we're
Oh no, I frequently tell my therapist, I'm like, I'm alive out of spite at this point. And
literally.
it worries her because I tell her that I have a list of people who are not allowed to outlive me, among whom are people like Justice Alito and Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell and shit like that.
Yeah.
The youngest person I have on this list now, and I am not even kidding, is Zach Bagans.
Okay.
Who was the guy who did, well, still does technically, Ghost Adventures.
Yeah.
You know, the one who goes in with like the punk attitude. Oh yeah, air ladding. We're gonna rile up the ghosts. Blah blah blah. That guy.
Yeah.
We've known for a while that he was a jackass.
Yes.
All right. Every single paranormal location that I have had the opportunity to find out does not allow him back because he was such a jackass to everybody there. There's an entire town, like, historical ghost town that's got like 400 residents, which is honestly more than I thought it was, in California, that he's not even allowed back in town. He will be escorted out.
I love that.
And it's like, okay, he's getting what he deserves. Well, early on in his career with Discovery and Ghost Adventures, he visited a house in Gettysburg. Okay. And in the basement of this house was a corpse mannequin intended to illustrate that the lady of the house, Jenny something or other, I forget what her name is, her body was kept in the basement for a long period of time for some reason. I don't know what the reason was. Well, there's footage of him getting on the display and humping the mannequin.
Oh, okay.
The place was closed to tours for like 2 years afterwards because everybody was so fucking upset. How this did not immediately torpedo his career, I have no idea. But after that, it's like, okay, you went from being just like consummate asshole to you're no longer allowed to outlive me.
Yeah.
You better go first because I'm going to come to hell looking for you. So, yeah, he is right now, I think, the youngest person that is on, and he's still older than me. Not
is
by
he
tons.
Younger than JD Vance?
Ooh, good question.
Because
I assume so? But I actually don't know. Hey, you know what I have at my disposal? A whole entire fucking internet.
Are you real? Are you for real? The World Wide Webverse?
The World
At
Wide
our
Webverse.
fingertips?
Let's see. So Vance is 40 years old, born in 84. And I like how I typed Z and it's like Zac Efron? No. Zach, oh no, Zach is the second youngest. Zach is 47, born in 77.
Wow.
So yeah, JD Vance is technically, I think, the youngest on the list so far.
Yeah.
Zachary Alexander Bagans is an American paranormal investigator, television personality, museum operator, and author. Oh, they forgot musician.
Yeah.
They forgot musician.
I would just like to really, like, my main thing right now, just taking things baby steps at a time, is just outliving Charles.
Yeah.
Like,
also
that's baby steps. That's my first step there, you know?
Well, I'm pretty sure it was Elizabeth's plan, but, then age happened.
Yeah. Best laid plans and all that.
Yep. But I'm pretty sure she was trying to outlive his ass.
You know what? Thing would have been any different, really.
Not really. You know, but the thought was there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole thing of a constitutional monarchy and the business that Windsor Castle really is.
Right?
It wild. Is the firm. It's really fucked up to like marry into a family that calls itself the firm. You know?
Yeah. I can imagine.
Poor Megan.
Seriously. I would be like, nope, bye.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be yeah, I don't know. I don't think I could have done it.
Definitely not.
Because, you know, it'd be about the second time, you know, some overly British person was overly British to me and I'd just freaking lose it because I'm an American.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, oh my goodness! And I'd be like, then shut your fucking mouth! And it'd be all over. The tabloids would be, oh my god, these Yankees.
Yeah, or whatever. Well, you know.
As my parents now are watching Game of Thrones against all of my advice and better judgment. Because my mom found House of the Dragon and started watching it because she thought it was, you know, fantasy show with dragons. And I was like, oh, have you gotten to the incest yet? And she's like, yeah, there's a lot of it. And I'm like, oh, it ain't gonna get better. And I told her, do not watch Game of Thrones. Do not do it. A, it is not worth it. B, there's a lot of incredibly triggering shit in that show, and it's just not gonna be good. Well, they're watching it.
Of course.
They're all the way up to season 7 now. We watched the end of season 6 while I was there. And my dad is, like, narrating to me. He's like, oh, season 6 is supposed to be, like, the best reviewed season. I'm like, yes, it's because that's the season that introduced Lyanna Mormont. Which, the screenshot of the stink eye she was giving Ramsay Bolton ran the world for weeks. Because she was so good. So...
yeah?
Yeah. There's a, you know, very small young girl who's just like, I'm gonna fucking murder you. Like, so good. But then he's like, and all of these people have no idea who anybody is ever because they've all been recast like 4 times. And he points at Kit Harington and he goes, that guy has been recast at least twice. And I was like, no, he hasn't. And he's like, yeah, he looked completely different at the start of the show. And I'm like, what you need to understand is this show spanned many years. What you are seeing is children becoming adults. He grew up and left puberty. That's why he looks different.
Sounds fake.
Dad, please. There's only one major recast in the whole show, and it was Dario Naharis. Who also happened to make, like, a quick appearance right at the end of season 6 so that I could be like, this is the only guy. Everybody else, same guys. There's a couple of, like, character design changes that were important. Like, Tyrion, they got rid of his god-awful blonde wig after the first season, because the character's supposed to be blonde like his siblings are, so they gave him this god-awful, like, orange wig. Orange blonde wig, and luckily they got rid of that after like the first season. So it's like, yeah, there's some like marked visual changes that could look like somebody was recast, but yeah, no, they weren't recast. They were just they became adults. Sansa, do you remember how small Sansa was at the beginning? Dad, that was a literal child.
Doesn't sound right. Sound like it. Is the 7th the last season?
I think it's the 8th.
Okay, the 8th season is the complete, where it just became complete horseshit.
Yeah. Where the showrunners had an offer for a Star Wars movie in the bag because of how well Game of Thrones was doing. And Disney told them, finish Game of Thrones first. There is no hurry. We will start the movie whenever you are done with Game of Thrones. And they said, no, we'll hurry Game of Thrones because, you know, we want to do the Star Wars movie. And season 8 was so bad that they lost the Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, you never hear anything about those guys anymore. Yeah.
Can you imagine fumbling that hard?
It was so bad. And my dad is already complaining about how you can't see anything in the show because it's so dark. They literally shut off all the lights and lit a candle. Because he's like, that's the only way you can see what's going on in this show. And I was like, oh, you're gonna hate season 8. There's the whole literal darkness, and then a cinematographer telling us it was because we don't know how to set up our TVs.
Yeah, it's actually you guys are the problem, the viewers.
And we were like, are you fucking high? What do you mean?
It's actually like a skill issue.
Not my skill, your skill as the viewer.
Your skill.
Yeah, specifically.
Like, I can see it just fine, so
there's clearly no problem.
Yeah.
And the only thing is, like, you know, yes, season 6 and, like, the conclusion of season 6 is pretty good, because season 6, those last 3 episodes are where you get the Battle of the Bastards, it's where you get the demise of Ramsay Bolton, it's where you get the demise of Walder Frey, and you get Jon proclaimed king in the north. And also you get, again, I'm going to say again, Lyanna Mormont. Who was absolutely the breakout star of that whole thing. And so yeah, it's like, all right, we're going into season 6. Going into season 7, it's like, yep, because the only reason I know it's season 8 is because season 7, we have to have, like, the whole power struggle between Cersei and Daenerys before we have the war with the ice zombies.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, you know, the part that is deeply funny. Is like, oh yeah, and by the way, in the middle of all of this, ice zombies.
Yeah, why not?
Because the showrunners took a lot of the magic elements out of the series. Oh, people don't want to see magic. People want to see misogynistic violence, apparently.
Yeah. And incest.
And so much incest. And so, you know, I mentioned that and my mom's like, oh, you know, I can kind of see that. Because the little bits they had to leave in because they couldn't figure out how to take it out then look so weird against the backdrop of the whole rest of the series.
Yeah.
That it's like, you know, because I was explaining, like, oh yeah, Arya, the way she gets her sight back originally is not what it is in the show. And my mom's like, well, maybe I should read the books. And I'm like, I swear to God, if I catch you with these books, I'm gonna lose my shit. I think I talked her out of it because I pointed out that the book series is not finished and probably never will be.
Yeah.
So, because, I mean, in George R.R. Martin's defense, what a hell of a way to, like, test drive your ending for your market. To just let, you know, the show do it and see what people think. But then, yeah, when we all hated it, okay, cool, now what do you do? Do you actually write the book and change it? And, you know, at that point, it's pretty obvious that you're changing it because it was hated. Or do you do what he's probably going to do and just not finish the series?
Yeah.
'Cause he's got his money. I'm sure in breach of contract with his publisher, but what are they gonna do? Sue him?
Yeah.
Come on. So yeah, I'm just like, please, God, just, oh, it ain't gonna be good. It ain't gonna be good when you hit the end. You're gonna be like, what the fuck?
What is going on?
What the fuck did you do? But yeah, I don't know, my mom was like, fantasy show with dragons. I'm like, literally season 6, the dragons just got here. I mean, they're there earlier, but they're babies, so they can't really do anything. So, it's really not until the end of season 6 that we actually have, oh shit, we can roll in with dragons! And then me explaining that an armada of sailing ships can't actually all sail that close together because they'll steal each other's wind and not be able to move forward. But goddamn, it looks good on camera, I guess.
And that's what matters. Does not matter. Physics? Nope. Logic? Absolutely not. Does it
Dragons.
look cool? Looks cool. There we go.
I mean, I suppose you could devise a system by which the dragons artificially create extra wind by, like, strategically heating air pockets behind the fleet. I feel like you'd need more than 3 dragons to do that.
Yeah.
For something, the size of an armada, but...
I don't know. I'm no dragonologist.
You could try that. I don't know.
I'm just a human developmental scientist. Not a dragon developmental scientist.
I'm just a rocket scientist. It's fine. I don't, There's some things in this world that I simply am not cut out to do, and dealing with small children for long periods of time is probably not one of them. Based on how well I do not deal with, adults in certain situations.
To be fair, I find it a lot easier to reason with babies. It's just, there's a lot more logic that I can see going on. I was like, okay, you're really getting a little crabby. I'm wondering if maybe it's time for some milk. Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe we're feeling a little thirsty. Do you want to eat? Maybe. Want to eat? Do you want to maybe drink some of your water? Okay, we're feeling a little calmer now. Maybe let's go lay down in our crib for a bit.
Let's just keep those calm vibes going.
In 5 minutes, we're gonna change your diaper. Okay. So much easier.
Things you can say to a 2-year-old, but not to RFK Jr.
Yeah. I mean, mostly say it to like 18-month-olds, though. Very particular.
They're in that dangerous place of acquiring language, but not all of the subtleties of said language.
To be fair, lots of adults also don't know the subtleties of language.
This is true.
The end is in sight on this. So close. But here's the thing, is I'm really worried that after working on this as long as I have, I'm kind of worried that the moment I take it off, it's just gonna be bad. And then it'll be like, okay. I mean, and it's fine, because it'll be easy enough to frog it, as long as I don't cut it yet. Yeah. That's the important thing, is to be really sure about it before cutting. Otherwise, then it's just a bunch of wasted yarn. Which, like,
Yarn does start to add up eventually.
It sure does. Though, to be fair, this is yarn that I already have in my stash. So, like, it's gonna get used either way. Like, I have to... I have to make sure that I don't let the sunk cost fallacy demons get to me. And I have to remind myself that I already spent the money on it. Yeah. It's like, no matter what, I already spent the money. So, oh well. I don't know. That's where I'm at in my life. I think it's the ADHD. Like, I had to come to terms with the fact that, like, I'm not going to use everything I buy because sometimes I just forget that it exists, or I hyper-focused on eating bananas every day for a month, and then suddenly I don't want to look at bananas anymore. Just one day. And so now I have 3 bananas. Not something that's happening right now, mind you. Definitely, it's not, I promise.
Absolutely not.
I don't have a single banana in the house. But I do have remnants of other things that have met similar fates, and I just have to be okay with just kind of letting it go.
Yeah,
Otherwise, I would go insane. Okay. Okay, we're so close. So close. And then I get to take it off and be like, ooh, ah. And then, hopefully, yay! That's if it's good. Then I say yay. If it's bad, I won't say yay. Okay.
If it's bad, we go, fuck!
It's bad, we go, oh
shit.
no.
Oh,
we
wait.
go, boo! Okay, moment of truth. Okay. Okay. Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes!
Just very happy with that. Go behind as a way to just kind of like bulk it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's
okay.
Good.
I'm trying to decide if I want to cut it or not. I need my scissors either way. Oh. Okay. So I have to, tie it off and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't worry, I just make lots of noises. None of it actually matters. It's also very important to do some extra stuff so that it didn't start completely unraveling. I have a feeling that would happen. I don't think. Okay, yeah, good. Now, I'm kind of worried that if I cut this, I will find out that that'll just break it all. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to create a test. Here's the real big brain thing I'm going to do. Is I'm going to do a small one to make sure I'm not going to just fucking ruin what I just did. That's because that was an hour and 20 minutes, I'm gonna say. An hour and 20 minutes of doing that. So, I don't really want to redo that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of weird like that, I've got this weird thing about not undoing all of the work I just spent time doing.
Yeah.
Which, call me a weirdo.
No, I've already been through that on this project because you can kind of see, I tried to erase it, there's original pencil marks on here from when I was marking this out, making sure that I would have, enough room on each side for the design and so forth, and then you can see where I remembered what you actually do to mark out your edges, and you take some embroidery floss in another color, and you just run 5 stitches, or, 5 squares per stitch.
Yeah.
Around the edges. It's like, oh yeah, that was way easier than I was making it in my head.
Isn't everything?
When it comes down to it, for the most part, yeah.
Me writing my current... Not to keep going back to that,
me writing any of my papers. Yeah.
Just, I originally got this yarn because I was gonna make that, like, raglan Nancy Drew shirt, horse shirt. And then I realized that I wouldn't need 2 skeins of the dark green because it would just be for, you wouldn't need it for everything. You would just need it collar and this. So, I have an entire skein of it that I can use. Because I wouldn't need it, but that's okay. It's fine, because then I got to do it for this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have to decide, like, I have other yarn, but I haven't gone through it yet of another, like, thing, you know? Like, I obviously need, like, flowers or a pine cone or something, or berries to go on this, too. Not just greenery, so I'm just gonna have to see how it goes. But first, let me finish that. I didn't actually go looking for yarn yet on if I had more yarn that I could use. Oh, I know I have plenty of other yarn. I just have to kind of do like a bit of a whatchamacallit inventory.
Yeah.
A route around. I have tester. Cut, cut, cut. And, you know, I'm gonna say right now, it doesn't seem to be coming apart. Way, it's kind of like, there's a specific technique called steeking, which I think is fascinating. Which I don't, if no one's heard of it, if someone hasn't heard of it, steeking is like a way of you specifically knit, or it's just knit things, I don't think crochet, in a way that like reinforces an area that you then go back through and cut, like a buttonhole like stitch on your sewing machine, where that's basically what you do, is you reinforce all of the edges and then you can cut it in the middle. And that's kind of what steeking is. That's kind of made me think of it. I haven't done that yet. Not yet learned how to steek. Okay. So, I think that look good. Wanted that. Trying to see. Do I like it out, cutting it? And then I just have to do one for the outside and one for the inside? I want to cut it. Ooh. Well, you know what? I can cut it, and then if I need to add, and then if I need to make another one, I make another one and also cut that one. Here we go. Yeah. There's my big brain. It's in here sometimes. But also
that's why they pay us lots of money.
Yes.
We're making so much money. Yay. Capitalism.
Hey. Hey.
Love it.
Just have so much fun. You know?
So good to be, I don't know, useful to society. I don't know.
I'm like so useful to society. Like, people can't stop just telling me how useful I am to society, you know? That's just how useful.
You know, the one thing that society needs more of is rocketry experts who specialize in navigation and abort procedures.
Probably. I mean, to be real.
If they're really thinking about it, it's more useful than they think it is, but again, it all comes back to, like, am I willing to take money from the Department of Defense?
Yeah. Thankfully, there's no baby-shaped missiles that I have to worry about.
No, just, you know, the dick-shaped ones from Jeff Bezos. My family friend was trying to figure out whether he was talking about Musk or Bezos, and because Musk has done the catch the booster tank or whatever on its way back down to reuse it, and I think Bezos has tried something similar, and he's like, I don't remember which one it was. I'm like, well, was the rocket shaped like a dick? Because if it was shaped like a dick, it's Bezos. You're all sitting here thinking, but aren't all rockets shaped like dicks? Yes.
But not to this extreme.
But not to the point of having recognizable anatomical features. It's a little special, that one. When I was an undergrad, still in community college, my algebra-based physics teacher, this poor man, I actually felt really bad for him. He was a meteorology major and math minor, so he got told to teach physics kind of out of nowhere because, oh, it's science with math in it, you know math. Well, sure, he knew math, he did not know science. He did not know physics that well. And usually, when they're trying to illustrate things like conservation of momentum and, like, situations where you can get away with ignoring friction specifically, they'll go to, a rocket headed for the moon because, very little friction in space. This poor man tried to draw a diagram of a rocket losing its empty booster tanks, by which you can increase the speed with which it is going without actually having to, like, fire engines, because conservation of momentum, it's mass and velocity. If one goes down, the other goes up.
Yeah.
He drew a capsule that looked like a bottle of Jack Daniels. And my group, by this point, my table had figured out that I was the one in the room who knew what was going on. And so we were back there kind of giggling. And at the end of class, another student came up to me. She's like, I have to know, were you all back there giggling because he drew what looked like a dick and was talking about mass ejections? We're like, no, we were laughing because it looked like a bottle of Jack, and he was talking about mass ejections of pieces of ship. And we were waiting for the Freudian slip, honestly, because it's like, it's gonna happen. It's gonna say piece of shit. We know he is. Come on, buddy. Just do it now. Get it out of the way. This poor guy. He did not deserve to be put in that situation.
Oh, but no. That's like all professors, literally.
And he was like, young too. It was probably only like his first or second year teaching. And yeah, he was having a hell of a time. It did not go well. I ended up teaching most of that class in the student center over lunch period because my table figured it out. And then with community college, for people who haven't attended community college, it's incredibly common to have, like, fresh out of high school-ish people in their late teens, very early 20s, and then more back-to-schoolers that are closer to being, like, the age of their parents. So, mid to late 30s, early 40s. And so my table was one kid who ended up going to, I think, Kansas State University on a football scholarship. He was doing advanced work while he was still in high school. And a guy who was a back-to-schooler. And then there was a whole other table that was more adults, like back-to-schoolers that were buddies with him. So, yeah, I ended up with just, like, this random amalgamation of people around me at a table explaining how the homework was supposed to work and what you were supposed to learn from the homework.
I had a very similar situation in when I was in pre-calculus. I had a very similar situation, but the time when I was really just should have been paid as a fucking TA was actually once I moved to state, and I was my senior semester, and I was in my like fifth version of the same linguistics class, basically. But now now it was a 500 level one. And then there was a bunch of people in that who were just Spanish majors. They weren't linguistics majors. They had no idea what was going on. And so I just taught the class half the time in the fucking library. Those were great. Honestly, I really enjoyed all of those classmates, though, because they were always really, really nice to me. And not just because I knew what I was doing and they didn't. You know what I should do? Is just do another row on this same one. And just do it up the other side. And then I'll have some on the inside and some on the outside, and that'll add extra. That'll add, because I was like sitting here being like, okay, that's not a huge amount of added volume if I just do it like on one side, or if I just do it on like, if I try and split it down the center and have it go on either side, that's not that much added volume. So I think I could do with having it be another, like, just do the up the other side as well. It's gonna take forever, but that's just how it is.
Grad school, in a nutshell. It's gonna take forever, but that's just how it is.
Me right now. Hey, I'm actually supposed to graduate next semester, which is only one semester late, which, honestly,
pretty good.
Pretty fucking good for having been working 3/4 time all throughout.
Yep.
Oh, doing far too much. To the point where people are like, Rissa, when do you sleep?
Sleep? What is sleep?
The least the worst possible times. That's when I sleep. Maybe I'll just make a second one and not do it on one, because now I'm thinking about how messy that would be. Other thing to do. Now I'm just like, going back and forth on it.
Double and triple guessing, yeah.
But what I might also do after this is go take this downstairs and kind of just do a light iron, because it's a cotton yarn. It's 100% cotton, which, if anyone's wondering what yarn I'm using this stuff. It is the KC Essential Cotton. It is in color Rainforest. It is really soft. It's a lightweight yarn. It's a 3. And it is 100% cotton, but it's not stiff. Like, you know the ones. If anyone's ever worked with cotton yarn, you know the one I'm talking about. The fucking sugar and cream, peaches and cream, whatever the fuck that one is. Oh, it's the fucking worst. We all know it. We all know it's the worst. We put up with it because for years it was the only 100% cotton yarn. But guess what? They make 100% cotton yarn that doesn't make your hands hurt. I'm just saying.
It's 2024. We've grown as a society.
We have grown past. We've grown past you. We've outgrown you. Lily, sugar and cream. You should feel bad. Feel bad about this. It feels like shit. It is what you make a washcloth out of, but don't you dare try and make me put this on my body. I will make washcloths out of it, or nothing at all. Because this shit is so stiff. This is in a bag to be returned. That is now been sitting there for months and is no longer in the return window. So, anyone want some yarn? Some awful cotton yarn that I just slagged off. Oh, but to like do a little show and tell. Just my little show and tell right now is I have all of this yarn I just spun. And that's not all of it. I have just hanks of it just in this bag because I can't cake it all up. And I just don't have the space for it. So instead I've just done this much. Caked up this much. And then there's still 3 hanks. There's still 3 hanks. And yet, it's still not enough yarn to do what I wanted to do with it. So isn't that so sad? It was gonna be
quite a lot of work for a
Hey,
moment of
I'm
disappointment.
still gonna do something with it.
It's true.
But right now I'm exploring my options. And by exploring my options, I mean scouring Ravelry. Because 900 yards is a lot to spin. It's a lot because I carded it all. I blended it myself. I spun it. And then 900 yards. It's a lot. And then plus this that doesn't have the heathering in it. That's another 120 yards. So altogether, I have over 1,000 yards. But, knitting a sweater for a fully grown man takes more than 900 yards. This sweater I made for myself, this took 1,100 yards. And it is, you know, for a, I mean, it's more tight fitting than he would want. I'm not saying that we're really different sizes, because we're not, but he would not want it as cropped as this. But then again, also I did do this one crochet, so that's one thing. I did it crochet, which always takes more yarn than knitting. And I'm going to be knitting this sweater for him, or I was. And it also was using I used a very tiny hook. I used not this hook, the next one up. So this is an E hook. No, this one's a D hook. This is 3.25 millimeters. It's so tiny. It's so tiny. I used this one for the cuffs, the ribbing. But for the sweater itself, I used the E hook, so 3.5 millimeter. No, I think I used a 3.75. I think I used an F, which is still incredibly tiny. It's small enough that like you lose it when you sit down. And that's why it took me 5 million years to finish. That, and when I had to wait for 2.5 weeks for Joann's to even ship my yarn.
Yeah.
So.
There's also that.
Yeah. So, you know. That's how much I used for this, but again, I don't want to gamble. I don't want to be, like, so close to being finished with it and lose yarn chicken, because I can't go out and buy more of this yarn.
Yeah.
because it is a lovely blend. Because I have, it's alpaca, and then I mixed it with one ply of the yarn is alpaca with just recycled wool. And then the other ply of the yarn is alpaca, recycled wool, and recycled viscose. Just the little white flecks. Just rayon. So it's really pretty and it's really soft. But it's just not enough. So, but then it's too much to do most of the other things I would do with it. Like, that's too much yarn. I'm not gonna use it all on a scarf. Or mittens. I could do a scarf, mittens, hat combo set and put a dent in it.
Yeah.
I was like, would you wear a sweater vest? And he's like, absolutely. It's like, that's what I thought, but I'm like, I wanted to just like check just in case.
Explore our options, yeah.
I was like, maybe you would wear, I don't know. So instead I'm looking at cardigan options because he said that he's okay if a cardigan is a little, like, because the main issue is that if you're wanting to wear a sweater, a pullover, a jumper, if you would, you don't really want it to, you want it to be pretty dense. You don't want to be able to see through it. Which is like, yeah, understood. So I would have to use a pretty small needle to get it because this is about a DK weight yarn. That's you know, it's about this, right? It's not like the thinnest of yarns. But it's also not a thick yarn. We're not looking at a bulky weight here.
Yeah.
We're looking at, you know, thinner than your Karen Simply Soft, which is, I feel like, a lot of people's, like, go-to, like, that's what this is made out of. Behind me. But that, so it's thicker than that, but thinner than, like, a sock weight yarn. So I would have to, if I wanted to make it dense enough knitting, I would have to go with either like a 6 or an 8 needle, which is just too much yarn because the smaller the needle, the more you have to knit, so the thicker, the denser the fabric is, so on and so forth. So just at the point where I'm like, okay, well, what do I do then?
Yeah.
So he says a cardigan, he'd be more interested, like, he'd be open to a cardigan having a looser texture to it. So that's where I'm looking next, and if all else fails, it'll just be for me. And I'll just have another wool alpaca sweater of some kind. Is what this one is. This one's a wool alpaca blend. This one's merino and alpaca. But this alpaca is actually, like, pricklier than the alpaca I've been working with. Which is interesting because this is, like, store-bought yarn that I used for this sweater. So you would think that, and it's Eddie Bauer, but if you, like, look at it, you can see the alpaca bits, and a lot of it is, like, the, like, coarser hairs, which I think is interesting. So it's kind of like, get kind of like a halo effect to it. It's very, like, almost like mohair with it.
Yeah.
Which is the big thing right now, but it's not soft like mohair, it's those coarser llama fibers, not llama, alpaca fibers. So it's like, I don't know, man. I enjoy it. It was on sale when I bought it, so I don't feel too bad. But also, I'm like, I don't know if I would really recommend it, especially if it's not on sale. Because this not on sale is $10 a skein.
Oof.
Which is ridiculous for, I think it's like 230 yards in a skein. Which, is still cheaper than like a bunch of like indie yarn, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have spent up to I spent $15 on a single skein of yarn from a fancy yarn store. Actually, and that was it on sale. That was it on clearance.
Oh my god.
Yeah, yeah. There are some yarn stores that are selling things for like we're looking at $30 for a skein. And it's like on one hand, if it was like hand spun, I would get.
Mm-hmm.
So like the ones that you can tell are hand spun, I'm like, yeah, that's definitely. But some of them I'm like, maybe a bit expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I know the effort that goes into all of these things. So if I'm ever saying something like that, you know that maybe $50 for a skein of yarn. It's that's
might be a little much.
That's a bit much. That's coming, I mean, consider my 900 yards. Well, let's go with my 1,100 yards or so. 1,000 yards altogether of the stuff. Took probably 30 hours or so altogether, carding, spinning, and plying.
Mm-hmm.
And then not even talking about washing and the time that went into washing it and stuff and thwacking it, which is one of the best things about spinning, is getting to thwack your yarn after. You just take the yarn, it's wet, and then you just smack it into something as hard as possible to help align the fibers so that it's harder wearing.
Mm-hmm.
And also softer, because then it helps it bloom. But all of that, 30 hours for 900, 1,000 yards. So let's say that's like 4 skeins, right? So how much would I charge for that? My own time, 30 hours?
Yeah.
That's the question. It would be very expensive. But that's because I'm doing it all by hand. I don't have things like a drum carder. I don't have like I'm not, but then again I'm also not processing the wool. I didn't have to scour the fleece or anything. But then you look at some of these other things and mostly what they do is the yarn dyeing, which yarn dyeing is also a very time intensive process, but not as time intensive as the actual spinning and stuff like that. So I don't know. Yeah. It really just goes to it's up to what you think is worth what.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't sell any yarn that I make. I don't sell yarn. I don't sell any crochet or knit things. All purely my like. Oh yeah? For real? Okay. Yeah, that's what she says. You want to come up? You can come say hi to the people.
Oh, damn.
Oh? Okay. Yeah. To be fair, Nancy is terrified of people who aren't us, but I think she'd like you. I do.
If for no other reason, then I can usually get a cat's attention by meowing at them.
Yeah.
And making them question reality.
She's pretty used to that from me. She says hello. To pet me.
If for no other reason, then she hears me, rather regularly yelling her name at random players in Dead by Daylight. Not as many Nancy players at the moment as there have been, but yeah. I'm sure that will shake back out. Also because I haven't been playing as Nancy as much because I've been trying to prestige everybody. But
yeah. That reminds me. So let's start wrapping up. Let's what are you up to recently, and where can everyone find you? First and foremost.
Find me. If you actually want to see my content, it's twitch.tv/ARomanticAce. I'm also on Blue Sky under the same name. I secured the name with no no variations to it. So branding, I'm doing it. Yay! I'm so successful. And I stream Mondays and Fridays. What is it? 6x4. Yeah, 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern. Yeah.
No. Later.
Other way. 9.
8.
8. Yeah.
Yeah.
8 to 11 p.m. Eastern. I always try not to do mountain because nobody knows when mountain is unless we actually live here.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mondays and Friday nights. Mondays usually do something a little mellower.
Mellow Monday.
Yeah, planning on Fields of Mystria for the moment because they just released a bunch of new content for the game. Of course, it's all way past where our save file is, so we got to get there, but it's there. And then Fridays very often are Dead by Daylight, although if the matches keep being as depressing as they were yesterday, we might have to switch because, like, everybody's just given up. They don't try. And I'm like, yes, I found you in the first 30 seconds of the match, but have some fucking pride. So we'll see how that goes, but that's where you can find me.
Okay, and you already told everyone what you're going to be up to soon, so into more, I almost said, Mines of Mystria.
Well, there are mines in it.
But
there's fields and mines, actually. There's even water.
Big if true. Yeah. So yeah, and that's pretty much it. The pain is too bad to continue. So
and I just broke my floss off, so
awesome.
This is as far as we got. Not too bad.
You know what? That's pretty such a time intensive project, especially with how many floss colors you have going. So that and my little piece of tinsel, basically. Look at us. Fantastic.
Productivity!
Okay, and if you guys are interested in this podcast early, our patrons over on patreon.com/Curlmeistersisters get access to this early by several days. So if you want to be a patron, you get access earlier.
Sounds like a deal.
And you get to be on the end screen. Bye!